Hello, thank you for stopping by to listen to the Inner Goddess interviews. I'm Lyn Thurman, author of The Inner Goddess Revolution and creator of the Inner Goddess Circle, a place for women to explore the divine feminine. And today I am super excited to have with me Vienna St. George. Welcome, and we're recording this on Vienna's birthday, so happy birthday. Thank you so much for taking the time out on your birthday to chat with me today, Vienna.
Thank you so much, Lyn. I'm really happy to be here with all of you today.
You have I don't even know where to begin with your story, because there has been so much going on. There's your near-death experiences, your book, losing your son. Can you just tell people your story? I mean, that's all. Nothing big.
Where shall I begin? How much time do we have? Well, first of all, I want to say everything that has happened in my life up until this point, good, bad, ugly, all of it has been in preparation for where I am at now and how I'm going to be moving forward. Throughout my life, I've had a lot of intuitive abilities. I mean, since I was very teeny, I had abilities that, other people didn't seem to have. I could see things, hear things, sense things. And, growing up in a very fundamentalist Christian household, I was always told to, oh, no, that's, let's not talk about that. That's not good. But, of course, as I got older and started doing my own research and even started reading the Bible myself when I was 9, I realized, wait a minute, these are all divine gifts. And I had said a prayer when I was about 16 and said, all right, God, if this is my path, then please protect me and show me what is true and help me learn how to use these for the greater good of everyone. And that's kind of what's been happening throughout my life. So yeah, that doesn't mean that I've not gone through a lot of adversity. I have, but all of that has been to teach me and strengthen me. And so anyway, long story short, so back in 2003, I had been having some health challenges. I developed asthma very badly when I was living in Beverly Hills. I had been working in the film and television industry. I was a single mother with 2 beautiful sons. I also had put myself through university, and it was, a lot of stress on my body, mind, body, soul. And I could feel myself for a few years just shutting down. My health was deteriorating. My energy was just felt like the life was being sucked out of me. But as a mother, I kept going and I kept pushing myself beyond the burnout, beyond my limits, because I had 2 children to support and take care of. So I was being super mom, I was being super executive, I was being straight A student, and, burning the candle at all ends, not just both ends. And eventually that did catch up with me. And I actually died in 2003, April 15th will be my rebirth day.
Wow.
And that, of course, so many people now are publicly speaking about their experiences. So this is nothing, I'm probably not going to say anything that's newer than what's out there, but it was just quite honestly the most blissful experience that anyone can ever experience.
So was it like, oh, sorry, I was going to ask you, was it like the white light at the end of the tunnel that everyone talks about?
Well, my experience was interesting. The white light was there, but I don't recall going through a tunnel myself. I just remember the point at which right before, my breath had cut off. I had no breath and I knew I was going to die. I just knew. And so right then, and it takes a long time, I had no breath, and it actually takes quite a while to suffocate, because your blood still has oxygen in it, and it seems like it's forever. And so I just said, and the paramedics had me in their wagon, they were taking me out. And while that was all going on, I just knew I was going to die. And so I said a quick prayer in my head. I said, all right, God, just show me what you want to show me, but please make sure I can come back and be with my kids. And then I just sort of let go and waited for it to happen. And what happened with me is I blacked out just for like a quick second, and then there was like this loud pop, and I was suspended up above my body. I was in the paramedics wagon, and it was interesting because in that moment, Lynn, I felt such tremendous relief. And it's like, oh my gosh, thank God that's over. And I was looking down at my body and I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. Huh. And it was strange because I had no emotional attachment whatsoever. And, my body was kind of going through I guess you'd call it the death throes, and the paramedics were trying to hold me down and put the mask on me and giving me shots of doing whatever they were doing, and I was just going, wow, that's interesting. But the most profound thing about that point was every memory I'd ever had, it's like all of a sudden I was out of the body and I remembered who I really am, why I came here, all the secrets of the universe. And we all know that on some level. And I realized, when we're in these bodies, it's the density of these makes it very challenging for us to have all of that recall. And I think that's, I've come to learn that that's part of the process so we can learn and grow in this reality. And there are lessons in that. But later on, as, we got to the hospital, I was still just sort of hovering. And then all of a sudden I kind of was out, sort of looking at the scene from a little bit of a distance. And they took my body out. And then I had forgotten my youngest son, Brendan, my youngest son, Brendan, was there. And he saw them take my body out of the vehicle. And then, of course, I got upset because I could feel everything he was feeling. I could hear all of his thoughts. And when they took my body out, it was just like, okay, it was gray. My skin was gray. My tongue was black. It was just dead. It was like, I wasn't concerned about that. My concern was for my son, and I was trying desperately to go to him, like will myself to move towards him and speak to him, like, I'm okay, I'm right here, it's okay. But I was feeling all of his upset, and then I got upset. Then at that point, this light, this beautiful, beautiful, tremendously bright white light kind of came at me from my right side. And I heard this man's voice say, all right, Vienna, you need to come with me now. And then, of course, I was, crying in my soul self. I was crying, like, no, I got to get to my son. I have to tell him he's okay. And the man said, no, he's going to be okay, but you do need to come with me right now. And so I sort of kind of joined with him, and that light just became brighter and brighter and brighter until it completely enveloped us. And then, so there was no tunnel for me, but then we were just in this garden. The most beautiful garden. It's like we can't even have an imagination to equate the beauty of this garden. The colors, as other people have talked about, there are thousands of more colors there than there are in here, on Earth. The colors, they vibrate. It's like they sing. You hear song with these colors, and you just feel such profound love and a sense of home. I am home. The earth life, that's the dream. That's not real. But the other side is what's really real. And there were so many people there that just loved me so much. And, there were people that I knew from this life that had passed over, like relatives and friends and acquaintances. But then there were a lot of other people there that I don't know from this life, and I couldn't tell you who they were. But when I was over there, it's like I'd known them for all eternity. And it was like this big reunion, and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys know what I've been through. They were just, all smiling and hugging me and just giving, sending just such loving, compassionate energy. And it's, and so it was this beautiful reunion. It was just beautiful reunion at home. And so we were there for a while, and I don't have 100% recall of it, but I do remember I was given the option of either staying there or coming back and continuing on this life journey with my sons and with whatever else that I'm meant to be doing. And so, of course, I'm going to go back and be with my sons, although it was pretty amazing over there. But of course, my kids mean everything to me. So I have attachments here. So yes, so I came back. So I did come back, but right before I came back, Lynn, I think the absolutely most profound thing that happened was I saw between two people that were standing there, this little pinprick of white light begin to form. And that little pinprick of white light started growing and growing. And then it came at me, and it was a million times brighter than the sun. Just this, it completely enveloped me, and I was immersed in this divine love. And that was the presence of God. I swear to you. I mean, I cannot prove this, but I swear it was ecstatic. It was home. It was bliss. It was, you know, it was everything. It was everything that we are. It's where we originated. It's where we'll go someday. And it's what's connected to everything and what creates this universe that we're all in. And it's love. It was just pure, pure love.
Wow, that is an amazing experience. It must have been a hard decision to, be somewhere like that where you felt that that was your home, and then come back here.
Yeah, I'm crying a little bit right now because I'm feeling that energy. Sorry, but it was, it was. But I knew that, that presence is always with me. It's always with us, and at any time we can connect with that. And so over the subsequent years, as after I came back into my body and had to heal and go through everything else I've been through between then and now, when I get to the point to where it's the absolute hardest, I always try to go back to that feeling, because I know we're never really disconnected. Even though it feels like we are, we never really are. So when things get really tough, I always try to go back to that. I'm like, okay, God, I feel that again. I really need it right now. I need a good jolt, please. It's really hard. And I get it, not as profoundly as it was at that time, but I get it, and, what's been beautiful is after all of that, I came back into my body, and it was kind of like crash landing back into my body, like, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was like, I felt like I was swimming through mud. My body, I was in so much pain, and I was just like, oh my gosh, why did I come back again?
How long were you dead for?
They said about 4.5 minutes. I had no oxygen getting to my brain, and they were at the point to where they were about to call it. And then suddenly I revived. And during that time, I do have to say my heart never stopped. My heart was very strong, but there was no oxygen in my brain at all. There was none. So, and a lot of people think that, to die, your heart does have to stop. And well, okay, to be clinically truly dead, I guess that's true. However, so many people do talk about, you can have these crossing over experiences without that stopping. And that's what happened to me. So I need to be clear about that. But there was no oxygen to my brain. And sadly, and I've kind of compensated for it now, but because there was no oxygen in my brain, I did have some challenges coming back. It was, similar to, somebody that's had a stroke where, there was no blood flow. And, there were certain parts of my brain where it's like files got wiped, and I had to relearn a lot of things and like make new connections. And I figured out, over my healing process, it took a good couple of years to really heal and come back to a point to where I could sort of function normally. But like, for instance, I used to be amazingly good at chess. I could look at a board and I could see patterns and strategies, and it was just so easy for me. And my children and I, we used to play chess all the time. So at one point we said, hey, let's play chess. That'll be fun. And I sat and looked at the board, and it was just blank. There was a blank. There were no files. There was nothing there. And I went, oh no, are you kidding me? No.
See, now you're just like the rest of us.
I know, right? So I'm like, okay, here we go. So anyway, it was interesting. But the one thing that a lot of people, that have these experiences, these near-death experiences, don't talk about because they're afraid to, is there are after effects. PMH Atwater discusses it quite extensively in her books. And so do several other authors, but a lot of people that have these experiences, they're afraid to talk about the gifts that open up after they've had these experiences. So for me, I've always had intuitive gifts my whole life. I've been a healer. I've studied. I started, studying seriously when I was 18. So it's quite a while ago. But after the crossing over experience, it was like all of those got amped up times 1,000. And I had always wanted everything to be stronger. And then when I got it, Lynn, I was like, okay, can we turn this off now? Please, can we really turn this down? Because it was way too much. And that was, yeah. So But, you know, it's like all of your senses, we have our physical senses, you know, the seeing, sight, touch, smell, hearing, but we also have our spiritual senses with all of those, which have nothing to do with the physical body. And some people are born, they're naturally able to use those, and some people forget as they get older. But people that have had severe trauma happen to them or these near-death experiences, a lot of times those senses just pop open again. And so that's what happened with me. So you know, after a few years, you know, I had learned how to work with them, how to adjust them, like literally turn up, you know, it's like adjust the dials, like the volume, you turn it up, you turn it down. And yeah, I learned how to do that. I had beautiful, you know, just an amazing team of guides helping me during this time, you know, teaching me how to do this. And what happened was I came back from the other side with a lot more information about how to do healing work. You know, so that increased, that was beautiful. My empathic abilities increased tremendously. So it's just, you know, I still remembered, still had recall of everything that I learned when I was on the other side. So if I needed to access information, let's say from what you would call the Akashic records, I, you know, can kind of tune into that. You know, sometimes it's easier than at other times, but, you know, I can just ask, well, what is that information? You know, sometimes we can go on a computer and go on the internet and get information. So we also have I didn't make up this term, but it's called the internet. You know, if we connect to source in our guides, like, you know, what we're really needing to do, we can also access that information. So that's been something that I've been working on cultivating as well. And yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did your life change? Did you go back into the film industry, or did you take a step back and reevaluate everything?
I could not go back to life as I knew it prior to that experience. You know, prior to that, I had been in the film and television industry. Before that, I was an executive. I had companies and I had businesses, and, you know, I had that knack for spotting trends, and everything I touched turned to gold, and I could just do all of that. I could sell, I could do promotions, I could do public relations, and, you know, it was just, you know, I could do that. But after this experience, it's like all of that didn't matter. Everything that I had thought was important, that we were taught that's important, like being successful, being well educated, and, you know, in America, sadly, it's like he who dies with the most toys wins kind of thing. But, you know, like, all of that was so, it just meant nothing to me anymore. And that was challenging because, you know, still living in a 3D reality, it's like, well, we still have bills to pay. And I live in California. It's not cheap to live here. And at the time I was in Beverly Hills, and I'm like, okay, my life, we need to change things. We need to change. So, yeah. So my children and I, we ended up moving to Santa Barbara. I needed a quieter life, first of all, so I could heal my body, my mind, my soul. And I needed clean air because clearly living, you know, in the Los Angeles area, bless its heart, you know, air quality, stress levels are, you know, kind of, you know, not ideal for health and well-being, I'd say. So we moved to Santa Barbara, and it was a good move for us. It was calmer, the air was clean, and, you know, over the subsequent years, I was able to kind of heal my body, heal my mind, heal my soul, learn to use these new abilities and cultivate that. And then I, you know, through trial and error, had to sort of adjust. Well, how do I resolve this new reality? I can't go back to doing all the things I was doing before because it just felt wrong. It didn't feel right. You know, and trying to be completely in the spiritual dimensions and only be a healer, you know, that's, you know, there's not a lot of money with that. And, you know, so, and when you're a single mom with 2 children, that's a challenge. So, you know, I felt like I was kind of pulled back and forth between those 2 realities. And it was a challenge for me for a while, trying to adjust to that and resolve that and figure out, okay, well, what is going to work now in this moment? So anyway, yeah, we did go through a lot of challenges, but, you know, we got through them and we learned a lot of lessons. We really did. So did I answer your question?
You did.
Yeah.
Is this your book that's coming out, To Infinity and Beyond and Back Again?
Yes.
And that's coming out in June?
Yes.
Yes. Is this about your experiences, about your near-death experiences?
Yes.
Or death experiences, really, isn't it? It's near death.
Right. Yeah, it's I talk a lot about that, and that actually, that part of the book has been, I've been trying to, well, not trying, I've been writing that for the last 12 years. Um, but where it took a big turn was less than 10 years after I had that crossing over experience. My youngest son transitioned.
Mm.
He chose to end his life when he was 23, and that
Oh.
was in July of 2012. And so this book is really about it's about the beauty of death, and that there is no death, yet there still is real grief that people here are left behind with. You know, we can't diminish that. And even though, yes, after we leave our bodies, we do go home, experience that. But the people that are left behind, there is real grief. And and what I had to learn to resolve, and it's only been 2.5 years, and I'm sure this will be never ending, is,
Mm.
I had all of this experiential knowing that yes, we don't die. Yes, we go on. Yes, we are infinite beings. I can't prove that to anyone, but I, for myself, have that experiential knowledge. I don't have to take anything on faith anymore. But when my son transitioned, it was, I was constantly going back and forth between, this spiritual knowing that I had because of my own crossing over,
Yeah.
but yet the tremendous human grief that a mother is left behind with.
I can't imagine
Which
that.
yeah, you can't. I mean, it's like, just like, it's like before you become a parent, it's really not possible to be able to imagine what it's like to be a parent. I mean, you can try to imagine it, but until you actually become a parent, you can't imagine it. And unless, God forbid, you've gone through losing a child, you can't possibly imagine what it's like. And I can truly say that there really is nothing worse than losing a child. There is nothing. And
Mm.
there's, in that, actually, it makes me incredibly vulnerable and fragile, but yet it also, there's a strengthening that comes with it too, because no matter what I go through during the rest of my life, this current life, there's nothing worse than what I went through with that. So moving forward with, what I'm, going into now with the writing and the speaking and just opening myself up to the world and being vulnerable, and that's scary, right?
Really scary,
But it's
yeah.
like, but what I've already been through, I mean, this is nothing. This is nothing. It's like, and for me, my biggest wish, my biggest desire is to be able to share the things that I've learned to this point. And I don't know it all yet. I certainly don't. I'm not a guru. I'm nobody's guru. In fact, we want you to be your own guru. Everybody should be their own guru, right? But the thing is,
Absolutely.
I want to just share what I've learned so far. And I'm going to be continuing to learn for the rest of this life. So where I'm at now is going to be, I'm sure, much different than where I'm at 5 years from now. But I want to share what I've learned so far, and kind of, have this interactive journey with others, and, be able to, going through this tremendous grief, I was able to learn some strategies that helped me go through the different cycles of grief that spiral around. And grief is not a linear process. They say there are the different stages of grief, and you go through one after another, but it's not linear. They actually will spiral back around each stage. And when it hits, it's like, well, how do you deal with that? And I remember during, the early days right after my son transitioned, there were times when I got to the point where the grief was so overwhelmingly powerful that I go, oh, this is when, people check out, or this is when people start
Mm.
drugging themselves, or they start drinking, or they do things, anything so that they don't feel this tremendous pain, because it's you can't even describe the pain. It's so immense. And I remember sitting with that and going into it and just breathing, just, allowing myself to feel it, and just breathing. And, And then what I did is during the breathing, I just deep breathe very deeply. And then as I let it out, I would just surround myself with love. So that what happened was love was being mixed with the pain. And eventually, as I let my breath out, when I was breathing this specific way, I could feel the pain going out with it, and then love coming in its place. So anyway, that's one thing. But a lot of strategies I learned and I'm writing about in this book to share with other people that have gone through this experience, whether it's a child or a relative or a pet, or because it all hurts. Grief is grief, and it's not a competition. My grief is worse than your grief. It's hard. It's horrible. So anyway, yeah, but the one thing that I did want to share too, in the book I talk a lot about this, is the one gift that came after my son's transition. I don't like to say death because I prefer to use the word transition. He and luckily I do have the gifts I have, so I'm able to receive spirits when they come into a room, whether it's somebody that has crossed over to the other side and is coming back to visit, or somebody that's stuck between life and death, like a ghost. I have the ability to see them, hear them, perceive them. So what happened many times, numerous times after my son transitioned, is he came back to visit me. And when I'm going to cry again, sorry. When he...
Deep breath.
Yeah. Because it's just so beautiful. So when he walked into a room or just came into my presence, there was just such immense joy and immense love, and he was just this amazing, immense, beautiful, bright being of light, and it was humorous because, when I got the call, they confirmed that, they had found him and all of this. I was sitting on a beach I was in Santa Barbara with my other son, and it was from midnight, and I was sitting on the beach, and of course, just wanting to go into the surf and never come out again, never breathe again, and all of that. I was going through all of that and crying, and my other son answered the phone, and we got the call, the confirmation that yes, it was him. And but then all of a sudden, Brendan, my son, he popped in. It just all of a sudden he was standing in front of me, and he was this immense, beautiful being, and he was standing there like this superhero. Like he's like, "Ha, Mom, look at me now!" And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? What are you doing? This is not okay." I'm so mad, but it was so funny because he was beaming, Lynn. He was so happy to be home, and he was in his spirit body, and he was out of pain and out of suffering. He was home, and he was so happy. And it was funny because I could tell it was him because it was his eyes and his smile, except his body was much larger, like the superhero body and muscles, and he was beautiful in life too, mind you. But then he was just like superhero gorgeous, and he almost looked like what you would imagine Archangel Michael to look like. No wings or anything, but I was like, I was just sitting there going, like, I'm so mad at you. How dare you? I was just like yelling at him. And he was just like, I love you. And he's smiling and happy. And it was just, yeah. But anyway, so many times over the next year, a little over a year, he came to visit me frequently. And that was truly a blessing. And anytime he came in, again, it's like it wasn't possible for me to be sad because he just brought in such joy and love, And there was one time we did some of my friends, these ladies in Santa Barbara, they did this beautiful ceremony for my other son, whose name is Sean. And he and I, we had this little altar set up with pictures and candles and crystals and flowers. And in one of my friends, her name is Aparna. She is from India. And in the Indian tradition, in the Hindu tradition, after the 13th day, they do some special chanting ceremony to help the family and loved ones of the deceased have their transition, and to help the person that has transitioned to be able to go to the next level. So she and several of my friends came over and just did this beautiful ceremony for me and for Sean. And I'm just tremendously grateful for that. I'll never forget it. But after everyone left, I was alone, and I was sitting in front of the altar, just looking at the pictures. And I just, kind of was, allowing myself to feel everything, trying to be loving, but I didn't want to miss anything, because even the grief, that was still part of my relationship with my son. And as much as it hurt, it was still part of the journey. And so I just was sitting with it, and I was just in such immense sadness and pain. And then he walked into the room. Brennan walked into the room. He sat down behind me. And, because he's larger in his spirit body than he was in life, he wrapped his arms around me from behind and just squeezed me. I mean, it was so physical. He squeezed me, like almost to the point till I couldn't breathe. And I just cried and cried and cried. It's like he squeezed all of the grief out of me and just, kept squeezing, would not let go, and just filling me with love until I got all the tears out, got all the pain out. And then, I could look at his pictures, and I just kept feeling joy and love for the time that I did have with him, and just such immense gratitude that he did choose to be in this life with me, even though it was cut shorter than I would, of course, wanted. But it was just, he showed me that it's time, I need to focus on the gifts that he brought with this life. What were the beautiful lessons that we all learned together? And now how can I, take those lessons and share those with other people to help others who are grieving, or others who are in the kind of pain that he was in, and, so that they can make different choices, hopefully, or better choices.
You've got a mission here, Vienna.
I do. Yeah. It's a big one. And I'm like, okay. Honestly, Lynn, there's a part of me, I would just like to have this little cabin up in the mountains somewhere, overlooking the ocean, have my pets, have a few loved ones with me, and just sort of have this nice little quiet life.
It doesn't work like that.
But I mean, maybe someday, but right now I'm being told, no, I need to go out there. And, but I really am ready now. I was afraid before because, I think I was just more afraid of how this is all going to be received. And, but now I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm not afraid, because even if I help one person, Lynn, one person, it's worth it. It's all worth it. And I want Brennan's life to mean something. I want what he brought into this world to help as many people as possible go through what they're going through, regardless of what it is. And I want everyone out there to know how immensely they are loved, regardless of what they're going through, or how hard their life has been, or how, the decisions they've made that they're not happy about, regardless of what you've been through before this point. I just want everyone to know you are so loved. You are so needed in this life. You are, and so wanted. And I just, never give up. Just never give up.
It's such a beautiful message. I mean, I think everyone needs to hear that. But you, with your book coming out and your own experiences, and now you're on your mission, and you're telling everyone. I mean, people who don't have the same gifts that you have, they need to hear this, because otherwise they will think that transitioning is the end.
Yeah.
But it isn't.
No, you're right. Well, especially, in Western culture, it's so taboo to talk about death. People don't want to talk about it. They're afraid of it. They're afraid of what might be. They might end, and that's pretty normal. There are other cultures around the world, though, that, death is a part of life. It's one end of the spectrum. We transition from the other side into these lives, and eventually we're going to transition out of these lives back to the other side. But there's so much fear going out, and I want to try to dispel that fear, as best I can. And again, I a lot of this I can't prove, and I'm okay with that, but I just want to share, this is what I've learned so far. And fortunately, I'm not the only one out there who's sharing this message. There are many other people, which actually helps me be a little bit, to be quite honest, because, and, bless them all. Thank you to all of them that have gone before me, because yes, I feel like I know other people. I'm not alone in this. So, but, I was going to say something else and I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, yeah, it's, We'll do the best we can with what, we're given, and that's what I'm meaning to do. I think one of my big missions, I don't know how much time we have left, but if at some point when the timing is right, I would like to set up a foundation for children who have, who are different, who, people, they call them ADHD, or they have Asperger's or autism, or
Mm.
they're different from what you would call normal. Although
Mm.
I think these different children are becoming the norm. I want there to be support for them and their families, and to know that, what, they're different for a reason. I truly believe that they are the next evolution of our species. And I truly feel that we are on the verge of a new renaissance in human history. These new children that are being born, over the last few decades, are meant to help bring us into this next cycle that we're moving into,
Mm.
where it's not just one dimensional. It's not just about technology and third dimension. No, we're meant to be able to perceive the multidimensional realities that so many scientists have talked about. Einstein, Nikola Tesla, Da Vinci. I mean, all these people throughout history have talked about it. But now we're really at a point to where we're going to be making a transition into this greater awareness. And there are so many people waking up in the world, and all of a sudden their abilities are starting to open up. And I have had the opportunity to travel and live in many countries besides America. I've lived in Europe on and off again for 7 years. And so I've met people where suddenly, they're starting to have these abilities open up, and it scares them because they don't know what to do,
Mm.
and they're afraid to talk about it. Especially, I lived in Italy for a while, and I was in Rome. No, actually, I was in Naples, and there was this one gentleman, he kind of got to know me a little bit, and he knew I was open, so he confided in me that he was having these experiences, but he was terrified because he'd always been taught that that's wrong, and that's, and I said, no, no, no. So it was beautiful that I was able to meet many different people at a pivotal time in their lives when they needed a person to come in to help guide them to the next point of that journey, and to give them that next bit of information. And I think that's what's helping me move forward with writing the books, with speaking, with, doing this work, is so that I can help those people that are starting to wake up and starting to question what they've been taught all their lives.
Mm.
Because through their own experiences, they're starting to realize that, there's more to the story than they've been told. And what I want to encourage people to do is just connect with their hearts, go inside. All the answers, all the wisdom of the universe is inside of you. And it's just, go inside, connect with your heart, connect with source, God, Allah, whatever you want to, call it. And that's where you're going to get the answers. Don't look outside of yourself. I mean, look within, because that's where you're going to have the discernment to know what is real, what is not real. Regardless of what's going on outside of you, try to cultivate that inner peace, and knowing that we are always connected with the divine source, with God. We're always connected to that. And try, and through meditation, through becoming quiet, through walks in nature, that will help us, maintain that connection a little bit better.
Well, where can people find you, Vienna? Because, people need to, get your book when it's out, and they need to find you. And how can they work with you?
Well, right now, my website is about to be launched. It's Vienna St. George.com.
Mm-hmm.
And Vienna is like the city. So V is in Victor. And A, yes, I was named after the city. It's my city. I love my city. So Vienna, stgeorge.com. ViennaSt.George.com.
I will post a link.
That will be, thank you. And I'm not sure when, it's February 18th, 2015 today. I'm not sure when this will air, but, by the time it airs and by the time people are able to hear this, the link will be up, and it will be, always expanding. I will create some newsletters to sort of help, share more things I'm learning about as I'm going on my journey. And eventually I'd like to set up a blog and also an interactive site so people can kind of share, and be a little more interactive with other people that are having different experiences or needing more support. Eventually, when the timing's right, there's that foundation that I'm going to create. So I'll, give out more information when the timing is right for that. And right now, we're also setting it up so we can do pre-sales for the book, To Infinity and Beyond and Back Again. It's a story of infinite love and the eternity of the soul. So we're going to start pre-sales for that too, which will help me right now, because honestly, for the last few years, I haven't worked too much because of what I've been through. But that's okay.
I can imagine.
So yeah, so June 1st is when the book is going to be available. That's my date. That was Brendan's birthday, and so I thought that would be very poignant and so yes.
And people will be able to pre-order that on your website, which is viennastgeorge.com.
Correct.
Oh my God, that book sounds absolutely amazing. I will be reading it.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much for your time. And
oh no, thank you. It's been amazing.
Opportunity. Thank you so much.
It's been amazing connecting with you, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know it's difficult because, well, it's got to be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've had a lot of tears on this end. They come. They still come, but one big message my son gave me the last time I saw him, Lynn, about a year after he transitioned. The big message he gave me, he goes, "All right, Mom, you've grieved a lot now. Now I want you to focus on joy. Just focus on joy." And that was his big message, focus on joy. So I've been trying to honor that and do that. And the times when I start getting sad or get into my little pity party, I go, no. Brendan told me to focus on joy. So I just have to keep shifting the focus. Well, what makes me happy? What are those things that give me joy? And of course, I'm still a mother to my other son, and I need to be present here for him. And eventually he'll have children, and I have other children out there that I helped give life to as an egg donor. That's a whole other story. And and friends and loved ones, and so focusing on joy was his big message, and that's what he wants. And I think anyone that's crossed over who has loved ones that are left behind, with the grief, they all want the same thing. They want them to focus on joy, get to a point to where they can set the grief aside, although it never goes away. You can get to the point to where we can move forward in life again with love and joy, and being present, being very mindful of where we're at now, not focusing so much on the past, not focusing on the future, but being right here and right now in the present moment, and just appreciating everything that's here right now for us, and all the beauty and all the love, wherever that may be. Or whatever that may be, I should say.
Oh, it's such a beautiful message. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Welcome.
Well, it's been amazing talking to you. I'm really sorry it's ending, actually. Maybe we can do this again sometime, Vienna.
Oh, I would love to, Lynn. I would love to. Yeah, there's so much more to share. Of course you can't do it in just this little bit of time, but that's all right. As I go through the journey, I'm sure I'll have quite a lot more to share. So. And enjoy talking to you too. So please, anytime, I'd be happy to come back and share more.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back. Thank you. So, and thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Vienna, for stopping by to talk to me on your birthday. Thank you again. So, you've been listening to the Inner Goddess interviews, and today I've been talking with Vienna St. George at viennastgeorge.com, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.